This is Andrea Kolski.
This is Mary Van Orman.
And you're listening to Justice is Blonde on Lone Star Internet Radio. And if you're just joining us, it's October 23rd, and we are going to be visiting this show about jury trials in Texas.
Which is a very interesting topic because Andrea just won a big case yesterday.
Well, thanks.
2 days ago, I guess it was. I can't remember what day it is.
Well, you know, one of the things that is interesting about jury trials in Texas that's different than jury trials everywhere else is that in Texas, unlike other parts of the country, the juries actually have a right to determine punishment, which I think is pretty great just as a matter of, you know, Mary, I know in family law, if you're in a situation where you have a judge that you think hasn't gone your way at temporary orders, which wouldn't actually happen to you because you always win at temporary orders. But hypothetically, for a lawyer that lost at temporary orders, a lot of times if you lose at temporary orders and there's not egregious facts that change before final orders, things are going to stay the same. Am I right?
Yeah, you always want to put, as we know, jury in a box. If you lose on temporary orders, and she's correct, I don't lose. But if you do, you want to put a jury in a box. But there's certain, we're a unique state. Texas and Alabama are the only two states in the United States that allow jury trials. You go to California, they're like, what do you mean you have a jury trial? We're a very, in my opinion, very fair, this is what needs to happen. So if you don't like the judge, although all our judges in Montgomery County are delightful, but if you don't, you have a right to a jury trial, which is common, Andrea, in your practice, which you want to share with the listeners about your awesome job, of course, winning again, getting a guy that didn't drink out on a DWI. You want to tell the listeners about that?
Well, you know, before we get to the specific facts of our case here in Montgomery County, I think one of the interesting things that we have here is that, you know, in a lot of states, judges are elected, and you know, that's
they're actually
good.
Appointed, aren't they, Andrea? Aren't they most appointed? And we're elected here, which is the slimmer. I mean, I don't know. You might be correcting me, but I thought most places are appointed, which means not good.
Well, if you're appointed, then there's no accountability kind of to the voters and things like that. But at least here with the elected judges, you know, you have the opportunity to replace your representatives and whatnot. But in our situation, you can always, if you know that you have a very state-oriented judge, which if you're going to be elected, most judges are going to be state-oriented because you want to run on the platform of being tough on crime and things of that nature.
Put the criminals, as I agree, put them behind bars. They need to go behind bars. So Andrea gets upset at me because I don't think everyone deserves defense, but go ahead.
But ultimately, you know, a lot of these offenses, there's broad ranges of punishment. So for murder or a first-degree felony offense, the range of punishment could be anywhere between 5 years or 99 years or life in prison. And if you're going to a judge for punishment, you know, you're subjecting yourself to that big range. And what you may have happen is sometimes people may plead guilty to things that they didn't do. If you don't know that the fallback is, you know, I got a tough judge, or I can always fall back on 12 citizens or 6 citizens if it's a misdemeanor. So, I mean, I feel like that's one of the really benefits and blessings of being a lawyer in Texas. I think it's a great right and privilege for accused citizens here.
And I think always when I tell my clients, and Andrew, you know better than I do because you try more jury trials because it's not that common with family law cases, and is that you never know. People don't like to color your hair. You don't know when, but our judges here, particularly in Montgomery County, we pretty much know what they're going to do. They're all fair. There's things that they do that are great. And if you don't, I think one of the reasons you put a person in the jury trial is because you think like maybe there'd be some reason not to convict this person. And let's talk about, I think we should talk about your fabulous job that you just did and got a guy that was innocent who had no money. She was court appointed and had no place to live. And, you know, like a lot of lawyers do, sadly, you don't get paid a lot of money for court appointment in cases. And Andrea fought for what she thought was right. I mean, she could have settled this case and gave him a fine. The prosecution was very delightful and said they would do that. But Andrea said he's innocent. I'm going to try the